Hi. Okay, so this is so out of my comfort zone, and I really don't even know what I'm doing, honestly. But I'll start off with those who don't know, my name's Courtney, and let's just get into it. So, I've gotten tons of DMs, like, being like, hey, you should, just do a video explaining things, or, make a YouTube channel, whatever, and I'm like, me? No, not me. I'm like, one, super awkward. Two, I don't even know how to take selfies anymore now that I've become a mom because it's just all my daughter. And three, I just don't find myself that interesting. But I'm doing this because I feel like what I have to say might help some people. And so I just have this strong calling that I should do this. Okay, well, I am almost 22 years old. My birthday's July 19th. See, I can't even talk. And what's interesting about me, I guess, is that I'm a cancer survivor. I had Hodgkin's lymphoma. Okay, so let's get into it. So I was 18 when I got diagnosed with Hodgkin's lymphoma stage 2B, and B, I'm pretty sure stands for that I had symptoms, because my friends who were A were like, oh yeah, I'm asymptomatic, like they didn't show symptoms. But I luckily did get symptoms. So like I said, I was 18 years old. It was my second year of college, like very beginning, second year of college. And I'll just give you some background of how I was before. I was like super into working out. I was really healthy. For a while there, I was even like raw. So like that's like even more extreme than vegan. Like I only had nuts, fruits, and veggies. But then I ended up stopping because it was way too hard. But what I'm trying to say is like I was very healthy, very conscious of what I was putting in my body. And so obviously when I got diagnosed with cancer, I was like, what? Like me? I was so healthy. So like it's just kind of crazy that it really does like happen to anybody and everyone. I was going to college, had a nursing major. I started college literally the day after I graduated high school. I was just really wanting to finish college. Like being something in the medical field was just really important to me. And I've had that goal set in my mind ever since like I was probably a freshman in high school. I just like really wanted to help people. And so it's kind of crazy that I wanted to be in the medical field, and then I saw so much in the medical field when I got sick. Anyways, how did they discover this? So I had a lump that rose on my neck, and at first everyone thought it was like a pulled muscle because I'd work out a lot. But then it would like go down and then come back up and then go back down. And my mom just had this weird feeling. She's like, you gotta go to the emergency room. So I went to the emergency room. They did a CT scan, and then that's where they found all my tumors. And then from there, they did biopsies. So I had to do a biopsy on my neck of the tumor, but it came out inconclusive. So then they had to go in my chest. So they did a chest biopsy, and you can look those up on YouTube. It's kind of crazy. You basically go through like a CT scan, and you have this big thing in your chest, like getting the pieces of tissue out. It's like the weirdest thing. And then that came out that I did, in fact, have Hodgkin's lymphoma. Getting the news at 18 was kind of a crazy, wild thing. I mean, getting the news at any age is horrible, especially as a young child. Like, I can only imagine, like, the parents, like, how do you explain that to your child, like, what they're about to, like, do and all this stuff. It's crazy. But 18 was kind of a weird point in my life because it was, like, I wasn't a kid anymore. Like, I just graduated high school. I'm in college. I have these goals. I was really hustling. But then like you don't really know who you are yet. You're like kind of finding yourself, finding like what you like, and just like really figure out like who you are as a person. And so it's kind of weird to have cancer thrown at me like at a time where I was like trying to like, just figure out who I am. Obviously school got put on a pause, and I started treatment, and I got 4 rounds of ABVD chemotherapy. And for those who don't know what rounds stand for, that's 8 treatments. So like 8 times I went in and got chemo. Chemo was really, really hard for me. I know everyone's different. I have some friends that went through treatment and they were fine after, you know, like they were obviously tired and stuff, but they were still able to do, like, for the most part, like normal things. But I was just like, oh man, that was rough. I also got the Neulasta shot, which kind of makes like all your bones feel broken, which is just like a horrible, horrible feeling. But anyways, chemo is really, really tough. I kind of went into it, like, when I found out I had cancer, I wasn't like scared. I was like, I trust in God's plan for me. Like, I know I'm going to be okay. I had amazing friends and family supporting me, and they were holding my hand through it all. And my first treatment was like so surreal. And like, it's weird because you still feel healthy in a sense, because like cancer doesn't really necessarily make you feel sick. It's until you're like stage 4. It's like the treatment does. So it was weird. It was like, I still felt myself like sitting there getting my chemo for the first time. And I was just kind of like, this is super weird. But it wasn't until I got home from that first treatment and it just kind of like hit me like a rock. It was like, oh my gosh, like I feel sick, and oh my gosh, I have cancer. Like, it was insane. The way my treatments work was I was 1 week on and then 1 week off. So it was like 1 week I had chemo, and then I went in for hydration, and then the second week I did not. And so that first week, you're kind of just like so down and you're super sick. And I had to have like one thing to look forward to. And so that for me was like, I live in California, so I loved going to Laguna Beach area. And I loved watching the sunset, and there's this rock that we would jump off of. And eventually I got too sick to like jump off the rock, but that was just something I really looked forward to, is watching that sunset. So anyone who's watching this, who's still going through treatment, like, find that one thing to like just hold on to, and on those days you're feeling good, go do that. Like, and have a friend or a family member that goes with you and does this with you, and just kind of like just motivates you to get out of the house at least like once, you know, on those days you're feeling like somewhat okay. Even if that's like a walk around the block, which literally I would get excited to take my dog around the block because I'd be getting out of the house and out of my bed. But when you're fighting, you have this like fighter mentality. So it's kind of like, you're not really thinking about what's really happening. You're kind of just like going along with what you have to do. So you don't think, you just don't really think about it. It's like these doctors tell you like, okay, you're going to do this, you're going to do that. You know, we need to up this, or, oh, your counts are low on this, so we need to give you that. And it's like, everything has a side effect too. So it's kind of like, you're literally sitting there and they're telling you all these things, and it's just kind of like going in one ear and out the other. And you kind of rely on whoever's there with you to like, when you go home and you feel that symptom, they're like, oh no, it's okay. Because like I said, you just kind of do whatever you're supposed to do. And it's just kind of crazy. It's just a crazy thing. I think once my hair started like falling out, that's when it really got real for me, and I kind of got in a weird funk. So it was like, I was really positive, and then it was like after my second treatment, so it was my first round, second treatment, I woke up one morning and my hair was on my pillow, and I was like, wait, oh yeah, I'm gonna lose my hair. And it's just kind of one of those things where they tell you in the beginning, but you kind of hope, you're like, oh, well, maybe it's not gonna happen. But it's like, it's gonna happen. And I remember waking up and literally seeing my hair on my pillow, and I was just thinking, oh my gosh. And it was like kind of weird. It was like, I didn't really want to tell anyone. It was like a weird feeling. And I remember I was laying my head on the pillow on our couch, because sometimes even just getting out of your room and like being in a different room is like refreshing. So I was just laying on the couch, and my mom came and she was kind of just like rubbing through my hair. And like, as she's like, was like petting my hair, it was like chunks were just in her hand. And she just kind of looked at me, and we just kind of like, without saying anything, like told each other, okay, like this is where it gets hard, you know? But then, you know what? We decided to take it in our own hands and shave off my head. I wasn't going to let cancer take away my hair. And my whole family like ended up shaving their head. Not my mom and dad, but like just some really, really close special people at the time shaved their head. And that meant so much to me. It was just a crazy experience. I think as a woman, when you lose your hair, it's really surreal. It's like society defines hair as like something that like makes someone beautiful. And it's like, you know, before I got sick, I had extensions all the time, and it was just something, it was like my security blanket, if that made sense. And not having that was really crazy. It's like you really truly find beauty like just like from within. And honestly, being bald taught me a lot about like what true beauty is and like what makes you beautiful. But I did miss my hair. It was really hard for me. I had an amazing wig and I wore that all the time. Sometimes I'd wear it just like laying in bed just to feel normal. But it does grow back. It truly, truly does. And if you need help like growing back your hair, DM me, because literally I know how to grow it back for you. Anyways, so fast forward, chemotherapy, like I said, it was super hard. And then radiation was kind of just like, I was just excited to be in something other than chemo, and I was ready to heal. And during chemotherapy, my veins ended up collapsing and I got a port, and it's still in there. My veins still are kind of bipolar to this day, and I'm 2 years out of chemo. Yay, super exciting. But like I said, during treatment, you're just kind of fighter mode, and you're not really thinking about what you're going through. I mean, you are in a sense, but like for the most part, you're just doing what you have to do. You're just going through the motions. My last day of treatment, so like last day of radiation for me, like chemo, at the end of chemotherapy was a celebration. Like, oh my goodness, I never have to come in here again, hopefully. It makes me emotional. So at the end of radiation, it was weird because it was kind of like, I was like, the fight is over, and everyone was like, you know, congratulations, like we could put this behind you, like, you know, chapter closed, you're not sick anymore, and like, let's heal. And that's a really hard thing, because it's like, you're still healing for a long time after that. You don't really feel yourself, and you still kind of feel sick sometimes. You know, it kind of, after all that chemo and radiation, like it takes a while to like feel like yourself. And I remember like, you know, I was listening to this TED Talk, and I'll link her TED Talk if I'll be able to figure it out down there. But she was even saying like the hospital and that lifestyle became really familiar to her, and it was like almost like a homey feeling. And as weird as that sounds, like I was almost uncomfortable, like not having all these doctor's appointments, not having my chemo nurses around me all the time, not being on like a high watch or like testing my blood. And like it came to a point where I literally felt like at my house, like it just wasn't this like a homey feeling. And I know it sounds super weird. And it was like I'd go into my room as a survivor now, and it was weird because like my room even reminded me of being sick, because that's where I laid, like, and that's where I slept, and that's where I would be waiting for that moment, you know, to be good. And it was weird because it was like every emotion that I kind of suppressed during treatment just came out once I was done. And it was crazy. It's like one moment people treat you like a fighter, and then the next it's kind of like, oh, you're back to your normal self. And it was just really weird for me, because at that point after treatment, you do make a lot of friends who are sick. And unfortunately, when you're good, most of the time they're not good still. And then you almost get this feeling of like, whoa, why did I make it, but they didn't? And that was really hard for me too, was people even with the same cancer as me, they're like still fighting, or they died. And then it makes you feel almost guilty, and it makes you wonder why. Like, why? And I remember praying to God and being like, God, I don't understand, like, why, like, I was okay, like, you could take me and don't take them, but, and then you feel guilty that you even just said that, you know what I mean? And so you just, it's a lot of emotions all at once. And there was a time to where I just didn't even know who I was anymore. And it was like, I tried going back to school and it was just weird. It was just weird. Like, I wasn't a fighter. I wasn't the person who I was before I was a fighter. I'm a survivor, but I still, it was just super, a lot of like, I had like an identity like issue going on because I just didn't feel like myself at all, because being a fighter was who I was for so long that it was weird to not be that girl anymore. And not that I did not want to like, you know, be sick anymore, but I just didn't know who I was. And that was really tough for me. And I saw some survivors who I followed on Instagram, and it was almost like they stay in that place of being a fighter. Like, you know, they're doing charities, they're doing all these things. And so I thought, oh, well, maybe I should be doing that. But then it was like having it around me all the time was like really heavy on me. And so I was like, oh, well, maybe I shouldn't be like too involved, but I wanted to be involved. It was just a big hot mess. And then it got to points where like I had PTSD, but I didn't really know that I did yet. And it was kind of like certain things would like trigger me. Like like all of a sudden I'd taste the flesh in my mouth, and I'd be like, oh my gosh, why do I taste that? Or like a food that I ate during chemo, I would eat that and just be reminded of it. And I hate talking about this because I felt so weak in the moment, and I felt like, why is this happening to me? Like, I don't understand. Like, I'm grateful to be alive. And yes, I'm sad for my friends. And so it was like survivor's guilt and like PTSD. It just really got to me. And I went to a couple therapy sessions, and, you know, I was able to heal mentally because that was like just a heavy thing to go through. And so I just want anyone to know that like, if they're struggling, like it's so normal. And after listening to that TED Talk, it was almost as if like I said, like I was holding this breath in and I was able to let it out, because I knew somebody out there felt exactly the same way as I did. And she had it way worse than me. And don't get me wrong, like I'm one of those girls, like if you reach out to me, like I'll most likely say like, oh my gosh, she had it way worse than me, because these people's stories, they could just become so extreme. But anyway, she felt the same exact way. It was like she was good, and then like it was weird because she had this like survivor's guilt PTSD, and she just didn't, you know, her identity. And so I just want every one of you guys watching this, even if you didn't have cancer, you're just not sure who you are, like you're gonna find yourself. And instead of letting cancer define who I was, instead of letting being a survivor define who I was, I found ways to define me on just things I like my passions. And then I became a mother super fast, which is crazy in itself, because I was like technically like not supposed to have kids, and then like and I froze 35 eggs before I got pregnant. And it was almost like weird, because it's like I mourned that this is how I was gonna have kids, and I accepted that. And then I got pregnant, and then I was like, oh my gosh, like, okay, so am I gonna have them normal? They still don't know if this is gonna happen again. We just don't know. But it was just crazy. Like then all these miracles came into my life, and it was just literally awesome. Being on this side of things is amazing. And literally anybody who's struggling, like just know that like you're gonna get through it, and these things that you're feeling are completely, totally normal. And you're gonna experience some hard things as a survivor. You will. And it's like even fear of you getting sick again. It's super real. I would sometimes, you know, be looking in the mirror and like feeling myself like my doctor would, and I'd be like, oh my gosh, there's a bump, or I would have one night sweat, and I'd be like, oh my goodness, it's back. Like those feelings are so valid, and like it is okay to feel that way, but don't stay there. Just don't stay there long. And like during treatment, it gets rough, and you're gonna have your tough days, but just don't stay there. You have to like acknowledge your feelings when you're going through it, but like just for the most part, you have to stay strong, because you don't even have that time to get into a dark place, because you just need to be as positive as you possibly can. But like I said, afterwards, you're still fighting. You might always will, because you've gone through some stuff, but that's okay. Like, you're gonna be okay, and God is with you. And like, I can't express enough like how much I've seen his hand in things, and like this has strengthened my relationship with him so much. And I really just can only pray that like all of you guys can feel the same way. And I just feel like I want to pray for all of you guys. So I'm going to say a prayer. Okay. Dear God, I pray that anybody watching this, whoever is struggling or whoever needs healing, that you may place your hand upon them, that you may just heal them with your almighty power, and that they may just feel your comfort and your peace and your love that you just freely give to us. I pray that anybody who's carrying a burden, that you may just lift it up upon their shoulders, that they may feel so light that they can fly. I pray that they just know how special they are, and that these things that happen to us don't define us. And I just pray for healing upon each and every one of them who are sick, who are surviving and they're struggling, and just who need your help, that they may find your hand and hold on to it. And I say these things in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen. Well, like I said, I am not good at making videos, but I hope this touched somebody, and I don't know if you want me to make more. I probably wouldn't want me to make more, but anyways, I love all you guys, and I hope that whoever's watching this spoke to you, and yeah,